Hey guys, Reaganite 71 here.
And Mrs. Reaganite.
This is Mrs. Reaganite. Today, she's going to be in the video. I'm going to get behind the camera and we're going to learn, well, I'm going to learn about pickling okra. Now, I know you can freeze it and mainly she just eats it, but today she's going to talk about what? She's going to talk about how you pickle okra.
Okay. What I've done so far is I've picked my okra, and the reason I'm going to can this instead of just eating it like Mr. Reaganite said is it's larger than I'll eat. It's, you know, it's a little tougher, but if it's canned for a long period of time, it's going to be soft enough to eat. So we're going to give that a try. And I have a few regular size in there, but I hate throwing things away, and this is a useful way to use your okra. So that's what we're going to do. Some people will cut this part, this stem, completely off. However, I prefer it like this, and my family does, so we're going to leave those stems on. Some people, you know, will cut these up to make pickles, but for one thing, you have a lot more air bubbles in your jar to contend with, and the other thing is that, you know, we prefer to eat them this way. So pickling or cooking is always about what your family prefers. I've got my jars in boiling, and I'm estimating about 3 quarts here is what I'm going to need. So I've got the 3 quarts in there, and in this hot water here that's not really quite to a boil, I'm going to place my lids and rings. We want to keep it hot to melt the wax, but not to the point that you're going to boil the wax ring off. Okay, while our jars are processing, we're going to go ahead and make the brine. We're going to use 4 cups of distilled white vinegar and 4 cups of distilled water. I'm using distilled water because our water can be hard, and there can be things in it like calcium and other deposits that would discolor your final product. Now to this, I'm going to add 1/2 cup of canning salt, and the reason for the canning salt is because it does not have any iodine in it. To this, I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of ground mustard and a 1/4 teaspoon of yellow mustard seed, heaping, and a dash. I'm going to add 1/2 teaspoon of dill seed. Okay, I'm going to put this on to boil. You want to make sure that you dissolve the salt thoroughly, and once it just begins to boil, you can turn it down so that it's just barely simmering. Really quickly, I'm gonna get my peppers ready here. Just gonna cut the ends off and cut them in half. And for this, since we want it to be spicy, I'm going to leave the seeds in. If you're going to work with a lot of hot peppers, you really want to use gloves, but I didn't need to since I was just cutting those in half and moving on. These little ones, I'm not going to cut these up because they're really pretty like this, so that's how I'm putting them in. I'm going to prepare some fresh dill. It looks really pretty in the finished product. And I also like to use some of just the leaves. And then you can mince up some garlic to put in there. And if your husband's not looking, you can pick a few of the carrots early and put them in there for color. Okay, my brine is ready, and I'm going to pull my jars out. Okay, these are really hot. Okay, now we're just going to fill our jars. I like to put the minced garlic on the bottom, and I put about that much. It's probably a half a teaspoon. And I also like to put the dill on the bottom. A few carrots. And some peppers. Okay, now I'm going to start putting my okra in. And if I get a piece that's too long, I'll just cut it down.
What is too long?
Too long is anything that comes up above the edge of the jar. And obviously this comes above the edge of the jar. Another sign we picked too late. We're going to stuff these jars as full as we can get them. Another one that's too long. And that's where these different sizes come in handy. You can just fill the dead space with little bitty ones. Okay, we'll fill the rest up with our peppers and our carrots. We're going to shove these down the sides of the jars. It looks really nice like that. So we only needed 2 quart jars. So I'll just use what I had in the other jar. It's always good to prepare for more than what you might need, because at the end it's harder to get your sterilized jar ready. Okay, we're ready to put our brine in. And then we'll fill our jars just to about 1/2 inch from the top. If you don't have one of these, you're missing out. This makes things so much easier because I'm messy. Now that looks like just about 1/2 inch. Now I'm going to take this utensil that I got in my canning kit and get all my air bubbles out. You want to go around it about 2 to 3 times and make sure you have all the air out. I was really getting a lot of air out of these. I had to cut some of the okra and it has a lot of air in it. But as you can see now, my liquid level's a little too low. That's because all of the air that came out has reduced the...
What's that right there? See what's happening right there?
Mm-hmm.
This okra has got a lot of air inside of it.
This okra has a lot of air inside of it. As the liquid goes in, the level drops, so we'll add some more. Okay, we're going to wipe the sides and then the rims. If you don't wipe your rims, any of the residue that got on there can keep your seal from actually adhering to the jar all the way around, and you don't want that because you can get botulism or any other bad germ in there. Okay, we'll just take our hot lids and our hot rims and place those on there. Just finger tight, no death grip. Then we'll take them and put them in our boiling water. you want at least 1 to 2 inches of water covering your lids. When this returns to a rolling boil, that's when you start your time. You can do this for 15 minutes if you have all small okra, but if you have a lot of large okra, like I had, really large okra, you can increase your cooking time so that it's not quite as tough. And so we're going to be doing it today for 25 minutes. Always open this away from your face, because that steam will sure burn you. And then you can grasp and move them where you want them. Okay, just leave these in an out of the way space for 24 hours, and at some point you may hear a pop, and that's them sealing. In the morning when you check, they should be concave and there should be no sponginess like this one is. That's my version, or my grandma's version, of pickled okra. Thanks for watching, and come back and see us sometime.
Now we're going to pull them off and set them on a towel on the counter. We're going to set them off, let them cool down, and listen for those lovely pops.